Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Fishkill Planning Board meeting for Thursday, January 8th, 2026. I'm Anthony Brozier, Vice Chair of the Town of Fishkill Planning Board. Chairman John Cantor will be joining us shortly after the public hearing for Duchess Manor. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A few announcements before we get started. We have several planning board members absent this evening. Jody Limberka, Felix Lopez, Ravi Ladala, and alternate member Kevin O'Connell are absent. With that, I would like to appoint our alternate planning board member, Vijay Gopal, as a voting member for this evening. As I mentioned a few moments ago, planning board chair Jonathan Cantor will be joining us after the Duchess Manor public hearing, and then he'll be recusing himself later on this evening for the project review for that application as well. So we do have a quorum of 4 voting members for the Duchess Manor application, and we'll have 5 for all the other items tonight. Reminder to silence your cell phone or any other electronic device while in the meeting room as a courtesy to those in attendance. We do have quite a few folks in the room this evening. And I kindly ask that folks speak into the microphone so that the audience can hear what we're all saying. With that, the first item on the agenda for this evening is the public hearing. Oh, yeah. First meeting on the agenda is a public hearing continuation for Duchess Manor, site redesign and restoration, site development plan and special use permit. The public hearing was opened at our previous meeting on December 11, 2025, and will be continued this evening at 7 p.m. or soon thereafter as possible. The application involves 2 properties, 6.63 acres located at 263 New York State Route 9D in the RB restricted business and aquifer protection overlay zoning districts, and 5.63 acres located at 14 Chorus Lane in the R-2A zone and aquifer protection overlay zoning districts. There are 2 approvals requested: site development plan approval and special use permit approval, and the historic structures and site regulations certificate of appropriateness. Outside of the 2 aforementioned approvals, the applicant is also requesting a rezoning approval from our town board to rezone the parcel at 14 Chorus Lane. To be clear, that rezoning is not being evaluated by this board, but by our Fishkill Town Board. We don't need to take any action to reopen the hearing. The hearing was adjourned, so it is still open. I do want to welcome our stenographer this evening. Welcome again. She'll be capturing all of the public hearing discussion so that the applicant can provide a formal submittal to the board following the hearing. I do ask those who speak this evening, when they do come to the microphone, to please spell your last name. We did have a little bit of difficulty capturing folks who were providing comment, and we want to make sure we catch it properly for the record. So do appreciate folks doing that when they speak shortly. With that, I will welcome the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. For the record, Helen Mauch, M-A-U-C-H, counsel for the applicant, HHFT. Just want to thank you for continuing the public hearing tonight and giving the applicant the opportunity to respond to the comments from the public and the board. So we will be primarily listening tonight and address any questions that we can at the second part of the meeting.
Yeah, I'll just say thank you to the board, and we look forward to, we had so many great comments last time. We look forward to this evening and our ability to write answers to those and address any concerns raised.
I do want to ask one question. I know there was a small submittal made to our board for this month's meeting. Were there any specific changes to that in that application? I know there were some plan sheets. It wasn't a full plan set. Is there anything in there that was changed, that should be brought to the public's attention?
It was, they were lighting clarification based on a comment from the consultants. So
Okay.
we're meeting the code requirements for lighting, and that's shown on those plans. There was also, I think, a note change on soil that was requested.
Yeah, I noticed it wasn't a full plan set, but
Right.
we do have the public speaking. I just want to make sure we're, just putting out what has been submitted for this meeting. And we'll talk about that. We do have the project review later on in the evening as item 5 on the agenda, so we'll talk about that, as well as the comment letters that we received from our consultants. So, yeah, if there's nothing further, we can proceed with the hearing.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. I will read the rules of conduct for the public hearing. Once again, we do have a number of folks in the room. Speakers are asked to come to the podium and identify themselves so that their name may be entered into the record. Once again, please kindly spell your last name for the record for the stenographer. You do not need to be from the town of Fishkill to make a comment. Speakers are limited to one turn at the microphone and no more than 4 minutes. There will be a warning when there is 1 minute left. I will kindly ask our attorney, Dominic Cordisco, if he can keep time and provide the notices to the speakers. We encourage the speakers to provide only new or different information or commentary. We ask that repeating comments be avoided. Speakers have been encouraged to submit their comments in writing so that they can summarize their comments during the hearing. The board has continued to receive comments via email, all of which we've received several dozen over the course of the hearing, including about a dozen in the last day or so. So they are all part of the public hearing record. Those who do speak this evening are welcome to email their comments to the planning board secretary so they become part of the record. Comments are limited to matters involving the business before the board. The Fjord Trail is not part of this application, and the rezoning of 14 Chorus Lane is not part of this application. Once again, that is in front of the town board. Verbal interruptions, shouting, or other outbursts, as well as slanderous or obscene language or making signs with the body or face are prohibited. No speaker shall make any personal attacks on anyone. If a person continues to interrupt after the chair has asked them to stop, they will be asked to leave and escorted from the meeting room if necessary. And finally, tonight's public hearing is not a question and answer session, so please address your comments to the board. The comments are being recorded and will be addressed in a subsequent submittal to the board. With that, by a show of hands, those who wish to make a comment tonight? Okay. I'll start right there in the front, all the way to... Yep. I'll get to you next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Uh,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Almost 1,000 pages were delivered, the DEGIS. This is
I'm
two-sided.
sorry, yeah, please.
Oh, my name is Teresa Kraft, K-R-A-F-T.
Thank you.
Days before this public hearing. Most people will be done reading it after this meeting or sometime next year. I wonder how many in this room have read it in its entirety. This report provides a wealth of information that deserves careful consideration on both sides of the aisle. My primary concern is still the potential impact of increased visitation, crime, parking demands, and traffic congestion along the limited segment of trails near a brief section of Route 9D. I love the idea of historic preservation at the historic building, but that is just a little bit of the plan. I initially viewed the Fjords Trail as a vital solution for better managing visitation and enhancing the protection of our precious trails. However, the findings through this lengthy planning process have gone off the rails. This report suggests a direction that could exacerbate the challenges in an already popular area of natural trails and landscapes. That will be forever lost and trampled upon with the influx of tourists this organization is promoting to bring into Putnam and Southern Dutchess area. Initially, the Fjords Trail had the remarkable potential to draw in and engage a significant number of visitors, yet it has changed its charted course over a short period of time. It keeps flip-flopping. It is crucial to recognize that our current resources for law enforcement, maintenance, safety, emergency services, and traffic management are not adequate to meet this near future demand. The report does not outline a strategy to strengthen these resources in support of the existing trail infrastructure. By proactively addressing these needs, we can ensure that we are well prepared for the anticipated influx of traffic and visitation. This effort will not protect our cherished natural spaces, but will alter the lifestyle of its existing residents. What about our safety and our quality of life? That should come before the status and the profit. I do not want to see our majestic Route 9 Drive, which is so majestically scenic, flooded with shuttle vans in and out of that site, and tourists. Enough already. Please stand firm, Fishkill. You're doing a great job. Anybody want to read it? It's right here.
Thank you.
Alice Krakauer, Krakauer.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time and thought you're giving to consideration of this proposal. So you're hearing two very different predictions about what will happen if this proposal is approved in its current form. One prediction is that the development will solve problems. The other prediction is that it will exacerbate or create problems. You will have to decide which prediction is more realistic. At the last session of this hearing, someone compared the proposed Dutchess Manor Visitor Center to the popular visitor center in Minnewaska State Park. But the Minnewaska Visitor Center, with its 300 parking spaces, is located half a mile within a 24,000-acre state park. Dutchess Manor, on the other hand, is located in a residential area on the only road connecting Cold Spring with the town of Fishkill, the city of Beacon, and the village of Wappingers Falls. The proposed parking lot, with 2/3 the amount of parking as Minnewaska's visitor center, will inevitably increase traffic on 9D. Build it and they will come and park. The increased traffic will clog this critical transportation artery. Moreover, the parking lot will not get hikers off 9D. It will increase pedestrian traffic on 9D. I don't believe hikers are going to wait 20 minutes in the hopes of getting a seat on an 18-seat shuttle that makes multiple stops, when they can walk on 9D and residential properties to the Notch or Wilkinson trailheads, or from those trailheads back to Dutchess Manor. When the issue of RVs, recreational vehicles, parking at Dutchess Manor was raised, the applicant's response was to say they're hoping visitors will take the train. Crossing one's fingers and hoping the Fjord Trail and its visitor center will magically work out when logic suggests otherwise is a risky strategy. There's been a lot of wish casting, wishful forecasting about the Fjord Trail. I wish you a hard-headed clarity in making this decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Show of hands. Anybody in the second row? Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Karen Sign. That's S as in Sam, I, N as in Nancy, E. And I live at Crescent Drive in Beacon. I have attended meetings and heard the concerns of those who would be most affected by the proposal of Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail for large parking lot expansions in our residential areas. I strongly share these concerns, particularly the following. 1, the threat to the safety of residents and visitors using Route 9D, which has little shoulder room to avoid collisions or to maneuver around accidents and breakdowns. From my home, I have to pull out onto 9D to get anywhere, and it requires unfailing patience and attention to do so safely. 2, the increased need for maintenance, security, and emergency personnel, as well as increased taxes to pay for them. 3, the sizable increase in traffic and tourists that will have a profoundly negative effect on the lives and well-being of our neighbors and our families. Also, the difficulty of getting emergency vehicles to help sick or injured people. 4, the effect on the ecology and wildlife, which up till now, environmental groups such as Scenic Hudson have been dedicated to protecting. I request that the members of the board require a plan for reduced, more reasonable parking, particularly at Duchess Manor. Also, to ban the use of pesticides and herbicides to protect the drinking water of residents and wildlife. I also wish to state that I do support parking solutions and improved safety proposals that will protect both residents and visitors as well, and ensure their secure enjoyment of our beautiful area. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, show of hands. Right in the front there.
Thank you. I'm Lee Kiriakou. I'm the mayor of the city of Beacon. That's Kyriakou. Lee is L-E-E. I've been mayor for 7 years. I was on the city council in Beacon for 18. I just want to thank the board and the staff. You're the toughest board in terms of any community has to, and I'm just ever grateful to our board in Beacon and to you all. It is rare that I have spoken in this town on a matter. In fact, there's only been 2. This is the second one. The other one is I wrote a letter on the self-storage on 9D that you were addressing last year for obvious reasons because of the access point being only Route 9 just by the 84. There I wrote about concern, and rather than saying no, I tried to write about how one could establish access appropriately. Here I have the opposite objective, which is to encourage an incredibly positive opportunity for both our communities. The first issue you have before you is the seeker for this particular site. On that, which is the issue before you currently, I have seen many, many seeker reviews. This one seems extremely clear. There's historic preservation, there's natural restoration. The people in cars, having attended many events at Duchess Manor over the years, is probably less than peak events at the site when I was there. So it would seem to me the negative declaration is appropriate. My only piece of advice is you might consider recording in that negative deck, if that's what you choose, some of the immense positives for both communities that will come from this site. And I recall and I understand that your focus needs to be on this site and not on the entire proposal, but the negative deck for this site. So I focus my remarks there. I do have a couple remarks on other steps in the process. I know there is a rezoning proposal. I view it as minor and consistent. The R2 zoning on 14 Chorus Lane, switching over to RB restricted business seems straightforward. The lot merger seems, again, straightforward, and Duchess Manor is already in the RB zone. So I don't view those as difficult choices. I know those are not yours, but I'm hoping this is recorded and sent on to the relevant board. Then finally, when it comes back to you, there'll be site plan and special use permit approvals. I took a look at the revised site plan. I viewed it as extremely responsive to the concerns raised in terms of the parking, and view them as, the expansion of the gap, the 20-foot to 40-foot, and the changing of how the parking laid out is, again, very, very responsive compared to other ones that I've seen. The gravel and the grass proposal on the south side of the parking strikes me that looks like land banking, which is something that we do in Beacon, which is when we're not sure how much parking is used, we sort of say, do some, hold some in abeyance, we'll see if it's needed. It's very similar to what's proposed here, so I think that's a good solution. Finally, when you get to the special use permit, you've already done one of them for 14 Chorus in the R2A. I don't think that it's very different for the RB, and even when the lot merger is the case, I think your special use permit criteria, the uses of recreational and cultural activities or philanthropic and charitable institutions is an easy fit. And when you look at the positives in terms of a trail that is consistent with both the town comprehensive plan and the City of Beacon Comprehensive Plan, the development of a visitor center, getting cars off 9D. As a biker, I rode once in 35 years on 9D on my bike, and I never did it again. And I think we need to change the safety elements that are sitting on Route 9D. I think this is a home run. So thank you. I appreciate all that you do. I recognize you have the seeker in front of you, but you will come back and address the site plan and the special use permit, and I thought I'd offer my comments on those. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Planning Board. My name is Evan Whitson, W-H-I-T-S-O-N, and I own 233 Route 9D in Fishkill. I am a chorus. I am an original owner of the property up for discussion tonight. Now, I understand and appreciate that the zoning change request for 14 Chorus Lane sits with the town board, not with this board. However, I raised the topic here tonight only because the zoning decisions directly affect whether parking can be built at this location and what standards would apply if it is. If 14 Chorus Lane is rezoned from R2A residential to RB commercial, the protections that currently exist for neighboring homes changes significantly. A once residential property would now possess commercial use immediately adjacent to long-established homes. Without a meaningful setback, residents face increased exposure to noise, trespass, and general intrusion. It is important for me tonight to correct the record regarding buffers and setbacks as per Fishkill town law. In this application, HHFT has stated that they believe a 20-foot vegetative buffer expanded to 40 feet as a compromise is sufficient. Regardless of width or plant type, a buffer is not the same thing as a zoning setback. The code does not treat them as interchangeable. Under Attachment 2 of the Town Zoning Code, properties in the RB district are required to provide a minimum of 100-foot side yard setback where they abut residential zoning. The 100-foot setback is completely missing from this plan. No amount of buffering within 20 or 40 feet satisfies that requirement. The applicant claims that a 20.6-foot condition can carry forward as a pre-existing non-conforming. This is a misapplication of zoning law. As per town code, once a parcel is rezoned, the dimensional standards of the new district apply. Section 150-24D is clear that prior nonconformities do not carry forward when a property is converted to a conforming use. Therefore, the projected parking plan requires revision and currently does not meet the standards established by the town. I also want to address whether this level of new parking is even necessary. In reviewing Dutchess Manor site plans from 1990, my family proposed a parking expansion to this town that they did not execute. And I have those plans for you to review. They've been emailed to you. That plan includes parking in the front along Route 9D, which HHFT is also proposing, plus a 36-space lot on the Manor South lawn. Combined with the existing parking that's there, it yields 171 spaces. Essentially, that's the same number HHFT is now proposing. The key difference is that the 1990 plan showed that this parking could be accommodated entirely on the already RB zoned Dutchess Manor property. The fact that HHFT is choosing not to pursue this option shows lack of concern for the current residents' quality of life. Now, tonight I address the board. My requests are very straightforward. 1, keep all proposed parking on the Dutchess Manor property, which is already RB zoned. Therefore, there's no need to change that part. And that has demonstrated its capacity already. If the zoning change at 14 Chorus is approved, then we ask that you comply with the established code by mandating the 100-foot side yard setback. 3, mandate a 20-foot buffer made exclusively of dense evergreen plantings, not mixed with deciduous species. And 4, preserve the existing mature evergreen trees along the south side of Chorus Lane and prohibit their removal. Now, as I conclude tonight, I'd like to state for the record, as a resident who is directly impacted by this project, I am not against a well-organized and thoughtful trail, nor was I back in January 7th of 2013 when I was first approached for this endeavor. However, it is my opinion that more thought and planning in regards to those of us who call it home needs to be implemented in the proposal before we can accept it as a community. I'm all about the transformation of the building. I'm all about the trail. I just feel it needs a little bit more tweaking before we can green light it and everybody can get on board. So thank you for your time and consideration. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll take you on the end there.
Thank you. My name is Doug Richards. Through a family partnership, my wife and I own a property at 275 Route D, which is 100 feet approximately just north on Route 9D from the manor. We bought that property about 7 years ago, planning to make it our primary residence, sell our other residences in retirement, and live here. We love the area. We love Breakneck. We love the hiking. Then we learned about the purchase of the manor 100 feet away, and envisioned the congestion and the traffic and the buses and a Disneyland-like environment for what we had planned would be our retirement home. For 5 years then, we have just shelved our plans while we see what goes on. So everything went on ice. We had a building permit. We had nice architectural drawings. We were all ready. We had met with Mr. Petrus. He had approved what we were planning to do. It's all been on ice for 5 years because we're afraid of what we're confronting. When I read the plan that's currently in front of us with regard to the Duchess Manor, I'm even more afraid. But, and a lot of that is about the general issues like congestion and parking and so on that you're hearing from so many people. I won't repeat all that, it's all been said. I have some specific issues though that are much more narrow and deal with us and our proximity to the property, and I think are important issues for the town. The north edge boundary of the manor property empties naturally for anyone who wants to hike to the north across several private parcels, the backyards of several private parcels of property. There's nothing in the plan about a fence to stop people from going in that direction. There's not even a buffer. The code requires a 20-foot buffer along edges between residential and businesses. There's nothing there. There's an open lawn open to our backyards. It's not compliant with the town code. It's going to create problems, not just for us, not just privacy problems, but liability problems. All along the back portions of our yards, there's an escarpment, which is extremely steep and treacherous. There probably aren't many people who've ever tried to go down it because it's so treacherous. Nobody goes back there unless they own the property or something. I've gone down it. It's treacherous. It scares me to go down it. The idea of people coming to the visitor center with their heavy boots on, itching to get out on a trail, and then sitting and waiting 40 minutes to get to a trailhead and saying to each other, hey, the trail's right down there, let's go. That's what they're gonna do. And it's gonna create a huge liability potential for all those property owners, for the town, for HHFT, and for everybody.
There's 1 minute left.
Okay, thank you. So my concern is about privacy. That's one of our big fears. Liability and public safety, that's another. And then I guess the last issue in my minute that I will mention is water. There's no city water there. The closest hydrant is quite some distance away. There was a house on the property that we have bought right where we were planning to build our house. It burned down decades ago. No doubt, in part because there's just not that much water. Here we're going to have this enormous bathroom facility with these tens of thousands of visitors coming, doing bathroom stops before and after they hike, naturally. Is there enough water in the aquifer to have a well function like that without draining all the surrounding wells dry? We don't know. As far as I can tell, nobody's tried to figure that out. It's vitally important for everyone who lives in that area, and there's no city water. There could be solutions that, you could extend the city water there, you could maybe extend fire hydrants, that would be great. They could truck in water, I don't know, but someone needs to focus on that and plan for it. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, right there in the front.
My name is Ethan Milrod. I live off Route 9D in Dutchess. Junction.
Sorry, would you mind spelling your last name for the record?
Millrod.
Thank you.
I've lived here for over 33 years. This project is far more than a trail. The biggest problem with it is its size. Limiting parking is an effective control on the people who are pushing this development. The planners intend to make the Highlands a destination. They plan to advertise and use social media to ensure that. This is only one of 4 parking lots planned. The Fjord Trail, according to one of the representatives who spoke to us, is planning to accommodate 260,000 people a year. That's more than 250,000 people, more than our local population. These people, along with over 1 million who already hike the Highlands, will strain resources and significantly diminish the quality of life for the taxpayers who live here. It will be in the interest of the developers and the vendors of the Fjord Trail at the cost to us, the permanent residents. If you would like to see an example of what they consider a successful development and what they are hoping to achieve here, please visit the High Line in New York, if you can find a spot to walk on it. No one has the right to turn our community into a destination, and you should not enable that. You are obligated to protect us from overdevelopment, even if that overdevelopment comes in the guise of a park. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening, and thank you for offering this opportunity to speak. My name is Richard Shea, S-H-E-A. I'm from Cold Spring. I live on Route 9D. I was also on the town board of Phillipstown for 20 years. I served as Phillipstown supervisor for 12. I was also on the conservation board in Phillipstown. I'm also a lifelong resident of Phillipstown. I fully support the idea of the restoration of the Duchess Manor site. It addresses longstanding issues. Some of the comments that I hear are that it's going to increase the use of the site, but the use of the site historically was as a catering hall. There were sometimes 2 weddings going on at once there. The site was fully, there were cars both in front and back. I had personally attended events there where there were over 250 cars. So I'm not sure about this change of use. I understand also the opportunity to restore the structure, to remove all the ancillary structures and restore the historic nature of the structure is something that needs to be strongly considered. Also, as I said, and people have already said, addressing the existing problems that are on 9D currently is important. We have people here to say that the area is not a destination is not true. The area is a destination. People are coming here to hike. We have thousands of visitors each weekend, and they need somewhere to go. They need facilities. They need parking. They need bathrooms. Without that, we're all going to suffer. So I strongly support the idea of the restoration of the Duchess Manor site, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Yes. Anybody who's raising a hand, I'll take them one turn at the microphone this evening.
Hi there.
Go right ahead.
My name's Erin Stein. Last name is S as in Sam. I, N as in Nancy E. And just to respond to what Mr. Shea just stated about the Duchess Manor and its functionality, I want to stress that these are 2 very different usage occasions, and I believe Dean Corrs wrote an email. He's a previous VP of operations at Duchess Manor to address this. They had events on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays that were primarily in the afternoon. Cars came in for one event, people went in, they got back in, and they left. The parking lot that Evan had mentioned that they were proposing to build, they decided against it because they were starting to encourage more shuttle work. So people would stay at their hotels, the buses would come and get them. So I just want to be clear about the park is going to be every day, open sunrise to sunset. Cars will be coming in and out constantly. These are very two different occasions, so I just want to make sure that we're differentiating those. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, yeah. Oh.
Hi, how are you?
Good evening.
It's a nice day today, wasn't it? My name's Nancy Montgomery, Montgomery. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am currently a Putnam County legislator, New York City DEC Fish and Wildlife Board member. I'm a former member of the Phillipstown Town Board, former member, appointed liaison to the Phillipstown Planning Board, former EMT and Ambulance Corps board member. I've been involved in planning conversations around 9D and the Hudson Highlands corridor for close to 20 years. I want to start by acknowledging the neighbors who spoke at the last hearing. Their concerns come from a real place. This corridor feels increasingly crowded. Traffic feels worse. People worry about safety, water, and the loss of what makes this place so special. Those concerns are sincere, and they're shared by many of us who live and work here. The reality along 9D is that people are here, they're going to continue to come, and it's very messy. What we've lacked is infrastructure, and when infrastructure is absent, the impacts don't disappear. They become unmanaged. Cars on shoulders, unsafe crossings, blocked emergency access, and growing conflict between residents and visitors. Parking here already determines trail use, just in the most chaotic and unsafe way possible. This project doesn't create visitation. Again, the visitors are here. This is why we started this. This project at last manages it. Duchess Manor isn't being turned into a parking lot. It is being restored as a visitor's center with amenities, parking sized to real demand, ecological improvements, and public space, giving your municipality the tools it needs to guide where and how people arrive, instead of letting unmanaged use compromise safety and community character throughout the corridor. For nearly 20 years, we've tried the approach of limiting infrastructure in the hope that it would limit visitation. It hasn't. What it has done is shift impacts onto roadsides, neighborhoods, and emergency routes. Doing nothing is not preservation. It's failing to fulfill our duty. Planning and building an infrastructure to manage what is already here, that is how we protect both this landscape and the people who live alongside it. What makes Duchess Manor proposal especially important is that it responds to conditions that already exist. It moves parking off of Route 9D, consolidates visitor services at an already developed site, improves circulation and safety, and provides basic amenities that have long been missing in this corridor. It also does something that matters deeply. It restores and reuses this historic property rather than allowing it to decline. I'm your neighbor. Your Fishkill Ridgeline is my backyard. I'm 3 miles from the Fishkill Route 9 border.
Ma'am, just a 1 minute warning.
Thanks. Our communities have lived for decades with the consequences of large sites that were left unresolved, abandoned, deteriorating, and environmentally problematic. Duchess Manor represents a different path here, one of active stewardship, preservation, and management instead of neglect. In my view, Duchess Manor represents a careful, long overdue step toward doing exactly this. I encourage you to continue your review and to advance this application with the conditions you seem necessary to protect public safety, environmental health, and the character of this corridor. Thank you for your time and for your care as you bring this important work to its fruition. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe there was a gentleman sitting right behind you who was, you were looking to speak as well? Yes.
Isaac Breslauer, Breslauer.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I'd like to speak in support of the proposed renovation to the Duchess Manor and improvements to surrounding property. I've lived up here for over 40 years, and encouraged by the improved access to trails and open spaces over the last few years. I'm an avid user of the local rail trails, paths along the Hudson at Denning Point, Madam Brett Park, and Long Dock. I feel improvements to the Duchess Mansion property would be an asset to the whole community and would improve the quality of life, especially for families and older members of the community. I know that there are many who have concerns about the proposed development and hope there be a path forward that would satisfy most people in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening. Peter Henderson, Henderson.
Thank you.
It's clear the application you're considering is an integral part of the fjord trail, and therefore splitting it off amounts to illegal segmentation. That said, elements of the Duchess Manor development aren't bad. Renovating the historic structure and returning it to its original form seems like a good thing. Having some parking available for hikers to offset the reduction in spaces at Breakneck also seems fine. What is problematic, though, is the amount of parking. There's already enough at Duchess Manor to offset any loss of parking at Breakneck. Also, at the last session, I heard concerns from neighbors about groundwater contamination, so scaling back on the parking, putting restrictions on the use of pesticides and herbicides, safeguarding against contamination from vehicle pollutants, and minimizing the loss of existing trees would be important. It's doubtful the fjord trail will ever be built as it's imagined, so if you're going to approve this project, I urge you to permit only enough parking based on actual needs without the fjord trail and no more, and make sure neighboring residents get the environmental safeguards they need. Thank you.
Thank you. A yes on the end there.
Evening. I'm going to do the identification in two parts. I'm reading into the record a letter from Gretchen Dykstra, D-Y-K-R, let's see, get it right, D-Y-K-S-T-R-A. My name is Andrew Hall. I'm a resident of Cold Spring. I'm also was recently elected as a member to the Cold Spring Village Board. And just as a footnote, actually, I was advised by Village Council not to make a comment here as a public official to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest. So I'm a little surprised that other public officials present have not observed that kind of the advice that I was given, at least. So reading for Ms. Dykstra. My concern is that this project does not possess the claimed independent utility from the larger phase project for the Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail, currently under secret review on behalf of the same applicant before you now. Indeed, in the Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail generic environmental impact statement, published just yesterday, January the 7th, HHFT now asserts that Duchess Manor is complementary to the Fjord Trail. I would suggest that any complementary utility thereby derived undermines the claim of independent utility in this particular case. Other public comments submitted have established conclusively that Duchess Manor is an integral part of the HHFT project and as such does not have independent utility from it. To that, I'll add the two following examples. On December 30th, 2025, HHFT sent out a fundraising email. It described the Fjord Trail vision. It described bringing the Fjord Trail vision to life, and I quote, "Your gift will help fund safety improvements in the Breakneck Corridor, restoration of the historic Duchess Manor to create the Trails Visitor Center." On August 16th, 2024, in a letter to the town supervisor and mayors of Cold Spring and Nelsonville, signed by Chris Davis and Amy Casala, the chair and executive director of HHFT respectively, they stated, and this is an excerpt, "And opening of the main entrance to the trail and additional parking at a new visitor center at Duchess Manor. I contend that this application represents an improper segmentation. It is not the first instance of a questionable segmentation regarding the overall project. Lest you be in any doubt, segmentation is the playbook here. Its purpose is to break up environmental review into stages as if they were independent. Check with any prominent land use practice. That is what they do. They pride themselves on using the process on behalf of clients with large, complex projects to expedite
1 minute warning.
environmental review. Often municipalities are the target. It's a fine line. While segmentation under SECRA is permissible in certain circumstances, it's not always the case, and it's still controversial. The Planning Board is now at the center of such a controversy. The question, given the preponderance of information before you now, is how certain can you really be that this is permissible? Given any uncertainty, I would respectfully propose that you consider the following. Restrict the application to renovation of the Duchess Manor structure only for the moment. Delay any further changes until the later of any findings regarding the FGEIS for the fjord trail are complete, or a pause between the construction of Phase 1 and Phases 2 and 3 of the broader fjord trail and the review of any further impacts is assessed. This will allow a more calibrated review of the sustainability of further modifications to the Duchess Manor site. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for coming down and speaking. Appreciate it. Yes, right.
Good evening. My name's Mei Yi. That's spelled Y-E-E. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. So my husband and I bought a house a few houses south of the Washburn Trail at the end of 2014 when the parking lot at Washburn was just a dirt lot. So sometime after that, the state made it into a paved parking lot, and we noticed a significant increase in cars and traffic. In the years since, 9D has become a busy thoroughfare, so much so that sometimes just across the street to get my mail from the mailbox across the street, I have to wait several minutes just for a clearing between cars. So there's been a real change in the congestion and traffic on 9D. So I'm very concerned about this plan to center the headquarters of the Fjord Trail on 9D at Duchess Manor, which would include adding some 181 more parking spaces. I can only imagine how much more this would add to the congestion and traffic we already have. And as we all know, 9D is one narrow corridor serving Fishkill, Beacon, Cold Spring, Nelsonville. This is a large-scale project that the limited infrastructure of 9D simply can't handle. Encouraging more cars into the area with the prospect of more available parking would only add to the traffic congestion rather than alleviate it. And it would negatively impact quality of life for the residents of Fishkill and neighboring communities in our ability to go about our daily task of work, family, and life within our communities. This plan would also result in harm to the environment, as 61 mature trees from the Duchess Manor property will be cut down, and this represents approximately 75% of the existing tree canopy on site. I trust we all understand the importance of mature trees and their critical role in the ecosystem to manage stormwater, pollution, and climate control. And destroying them in the name of environmentalism seems counterintuitive. Also, I believe that since the Duchess Manor project is integral to the Fjord Trail, this would constitute inappropriate segmentation in terms of the SECRA process. And so I would request that the town board make a finding against this application. I just wanted to speak to add my voice to the many voices of all the concerned residents and neighbors who have concerns about what's going on with this project. And it's not to say we don't want to do anything, but we want to have a solution that's going to respect the community, not displace it with an attraction that would destroy its very unique, special nature. So thank you.
Thank you. Show of hands of anybody else who would like to speak?
There's one back there.
Yes.
Two. There's another one there.
The gentleman behind can go next.
No.
Next, after you.
No, he's back.
After you.
I'm sorry. So, my name is Susan Peel. I'm a trail user, and I'm also a Cold Spring resident on Fair Street.
Would you mind?
Peel is P-E-E-H-L.
Thank you.
I want to thank the interim chair and members of this board for their diligence throughout the SECRA process. It means a lot to me because this same applicant has by various means prevented Cold Springs Planning Board from presiding over any portion of their proposed trail. One tactic has been to avoid mentioning how pedestrians will get from the train through village streets. But I believe this board sincerely wants to do the right thing. I also believe that the board is being misadvised and now bullied by the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation to not follow the SECRA process. In their recent letter, OPROP told this board in so many words, hey, we've got this, mind your own business. But that's not how SECRA works. Earlier, I submitted guidelines which are available to agencies and the public. There are 8 questions. A yes to any one of those indicates illegal segmentation. I argued that all 8 could be answered yes. HHFT is arguing no to 1, claiming Duchess Manor has independent use. But the extent of the use is affected by whether or not the fjord trail is built. According to SECRA, it is this board's responsibility to thoroughly weigh in on all aspects of the proposed project, including parking, public restrooms, and shuttle bus service. The applicant's website refers to Duchess Manor as the Fjord Trail headquarters to serve as an orienting hub for visitors, help draw them north of more heavily trafficked areas, and provide the trail's largest parking lot. But in this proposal, the shuttle service is merely to provide patrons the ability to move from parking areas to existing trailheads. The FGEIS now says that the future where this shuttle system is incorporated, it puts it into broader use, where it's considered a benefit of the Fjord Trail's proposed action, and passengers pay a fee. Shuttles are cited on 56 of those pages, but the hub is what's before this board. The applicant argues in the FGAS that because traffic and transportation impacts are regional, their otherwise segmented Fjord Trail north and south could be combined for that discussion. So why not the shuttle service? Is it to maintain the appearance of independent utility? I've argued before that the Duchess Manor proposal is actually a no-build option for the Fjord Trail. The FGEIS acknowledges this, but what are the impacts of their build option on Duchess Manor? From the proposal before this board, there's little to go on. The applicant's lawyer blithely states the proposed public shuttle will begin the service from Breakneck Ridge. Such service will be adapted over time based on demonstrated demand.
Ma'am, a 1-minute warning.
Okay. The FGAS also states, upon construction of the proposed action, Duchess Manor will also offer an entry of services for people who use the Fjord Trail. They willingly admit that although it's segmented, they're going to use it. So the shuttle service is an integral part of everything. But it's like a two-way mirror. They're allowed to see what we're doing, but we're not allowed to look at them. So what I'm encouraging this board to do is to stick with the SECRA process. You evaluate what's in front of you. The shuttle service as a whole, what it is proposed here, as well as what it's going to become in the future, is before you right now. Nobody else is going to be looking at Duchess Manor's driveway in a year from now or 2 years from now. Nobody's going to be worrying about what's going on here in a residential neighborhood. So I just asked for build and no build options to be looked at with regard to the Fjord Trail as it relates to all aspects of Duchess Manor that are before you. And right now they're only showing you the no build. So I thank you for what you're doing, and I deeply, deeply appreciate your position. Thank you.
Thank you. I know you were reading through a lot there, so if you didn't get through all of it, please email it. It
I
will be part of the
I'm
public hearing
actually
record.
going to resubmit all the stuff I've submitted, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Fred, I believe there was somebody
Yeah,
sitting.
there's somebody behind who raised their hand. Yes, come on up, sir.
My name is Larry Wiesler, and that's spelled W-I-E-S as in Sam, L-E-R. I'm a resident, along with my spouse, of Phillipstown. The reason why I'm here tonight is because we've lived here since 2002 and use the 9D corridor quite often to go to the gym at Gold's up in Fishkill and frequent a number of the restaurants up here in the area. We have a great interest in the 9D corridor and what's happening and what plans the Fjord Trail has proposed. And I had talking points prepared tonight, but I'm going to rely on a December 11th letter I sent to all of you with my comments, and just want to reemphasize that I fully support and would reiterate the comments made tonight by Nancy Montgomery. They are very responsible, highly ethical, and appropriate. And I just wanted to reinforce that and acknowledge that my spouse, Randy Fettergray, and I support the comments that she made tonight. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Yes, a hand on that. Yep.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Cynthia Kling, K-L-I-N-G, and I just would like to correct two facts. The first is, are the hikers already here? As my friend Nancy said, well, there's a reason that the Fjord Trail people asked the people who built it, who organized Disney, to find out how many more people would come, and the numbers I've heard run from 250,000 to 1 million a year. No, they're not here yet. This is how many they expect. Secondly, in terms of the shuttle, I think we're all clear on that. Has anyone ever paid any attention to the trolley in Cold Spring? Have you ever seen how many people are in that trolley? That's a great job. Nobody's ever in that trolley, but it rides around every day. Same will be true of these shuttles. Any of us would walk to the trails. So what we're talking about here is a huge infusion of people, as the Fjord Trail knows, and the use of the shuttle, which, as we know from Cold Spring, doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Name's Dave Merandy, M-E-R-A-N-D-Y. I was former mayor of Cold Spring for 3 terms. I was on the planning board, or I was on the council for the town of Phillipstown for 3 years, and the president of the Haldane Board of Education for 5 years out of the 10 years that I served there. So I did have a short request from you tonight, but I first would like to address some of the things I heard, and one my friend just had mentioned, and that's the projections and the disinformation that we've been getting by a number of people who spoke tonight. HHFT's own projections, this is their own projections, was that the existing visitation would at least double. And independent studies show that the visitation could easily triple. So it's kind of curious how the problem is here already, because they're projecting double or triple the number of people that'll be coming. So the problem is not here, and you don't solve a problem with visitation by inviting 2 or 3 times more the number of people into our area, a congested area. Also, along those lines, HHFT also claims that most of the majority of the increased visitation will arrive by car. So environmentally, I'm not sure how that squares with Scenic Hudson's mission or any of the other environmental groups in the area. And I'm not sure what that does to Route 9D. I think we can all imagine that. I think common sense will tell us what that will do to an ever-increasing congestion of Route 9D already. For my one ask, I would just ask that in light of the fact that the FGIS for the Hudson Fjord Trails, FGIS, which is very lengthy and information-packed, it was just released a day ago, and I would respectfully ask the board to add an additional day of verbal comment to the public hearing of the HHFT Dutchess Manor application, or at the very least, extend the written portion of the public hearing for another month. This will give your board and the community the time needed to review the FGIS document and how its findings may pertain to this application. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Show of hands of anybody else who would like to speak this evening. Yep, come on up.
Good evening. I'm Gordon Robertson. I'm a resident of Cold Spring. I'm 220 Main Street. Past trustee for the Village of Cold Spring. 60-year plus resident. 4 generations have lived in my home, and I am still in the same home. As kissing cousins of the Village of Fishkill, I'm sure that you've all visited Cold Spring. You know that a community of 2,000 people cannot substantiate what is being proposed. We've sat here, we've listened to numbers, they change all the time. As same as the words change. Last time I visited you, you came out with, I think the gentleman over here asked a question of the legal counsel for the Hudson Highlands Fjord Trail, and the question was, is there a connection to this and the rest of the trail? And legal counsel, along with the representative, stood right in this spot, and they answered to you that had no connection with these trails. It's obvious. There are new maps that came out show the trailheads land in the parking lots. We can't substantiate this. We are a small little community. Figure 2,000 people inundated by their numbers, and there are 6,800 people a day on that trail. Now, it may be nice for Beacon to show up and say, hey, we can accommodate that. And I appreciate that, but you have to look at where it's coming from. Where's the economic value coming from? Who's being paid? Everybody seems to have a direction here to build it. We need to build it now. Has some type of food trail or income coming from. They're either paid for, their opinions are bought and sold. This is, it's my opinion. And this is sad, because you know what, we're a small little village and there's home rule. And New York State is built on home rule. And it's the little guy that needs to be protected here, and it's not being done. And by fragmenting and segmenting and breaking this up, it's taking the tools that we have to put us on the same foundation with big entities and bodies of people who are doing it for ego and economic reasons of their own. Build it and they'll come? Yeah, build it, they'll come. 6,800 people a day on there, and that's their numbers, and not using those numbers and taking those numbers and then not applying for winter months and other, our village has, what, one toilet? The pressure's put on the taxpayers in our community. It's not about the tax. It's about the quality of life. Our community's going to change. I mean, I remember what the village was. We fought off things like this, Hilton trying to build projects and everything else in our village, and we were successful, and we kept our integrity, and we are the village today because of what was done before.
1 minute.
This whole thing is sad. You're going to be able to watch the demise of a community, and the biggest thing here, this includes all these other individuals in the community that may not agree on anything else. A lot of them, we all came to the same consensus here. Build it. That's what they're doing. They're talking about increases coming down. We have our officials turn around saying that it's already here. Well, it's here because they've been promoting it. And they haven't even talked about the things that we've had. We have cadmium issues. We've got pollution issues that the state has not allowed us to touch, parts of the river which now they're planning to work in, and nobody is addressing any of this. Things are sense of, it's all about the economic. Don't be bullied, please. Don't be bullied. And take a stand for the little guy. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, in the back there.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Kotzias, K-O-T-Z-I-A-S. I live at 229 Route 9D, which is 200 feet away from the proposed parking area. I want to talk briefly about two key concerns with the submission being reviewed: the huge amount of tree removal and the size and location of the proposed 181 space parking lot. First, the tree clearing is extreme. The applicant's plan shows that about 75% of the mature trees on the site would be removed. Many of these are long-standing evergreens that provide benefits. They block noise, stabilize the hillside, excuse me, and create the only real natural buffer between the commercial site and the nearby homes. Once they're gone, they're gone. Young, new trees will not replace that function for decades. Town code is very clear about what should happen when commercial activity sits next to homes. Under Town Code 150-39.2, there must be a dense evergreen buffer of at least 20 feet wide. This plan does not meet that. Most of what is proposed are deciduous trees that lose their leaves in the winter, meaning for months at a time, excuse me, residents would have almost no screening at all. The town's comprehensive plan also encourages keeping existing wooded areas whenever possible. Removing most of the canopy and replacing it with smaller seasonal trees simply does not align with the town standard. That brings us to parking. HHFT often references the lost parking spaces at Breakneck to justify this build-out. However, during 2026, other planned lots are scheduled to replace that loss and add additional capacity. If the Duchess Manor parking is also built at the proposed size, this corridor doesn't just replace parking, it ends up with about 156% increase in total parking within 1 mile. In plain language, parking more than doubles. That is not neighborhood scale, that is commercial scale. And placing a large portion of that parking so close to homes significantly changes how this corridor will function and feel. Residents are not against safety and not against reasonable parking solutions, but reasonable solutions do not clear most of the mature tree buffer and fail to provide the required 20 feet of evergreen screening and create an oversized parking facility in an area that is already facing pressure. There is a better approach. Keep any parking expansion closer to Duchess Manor. Keep it on the area it is now. Reduce the footprint of the parking lot. Keep it where it is. Keep the mature evergreen trees on Chorus Lane and the trees on the slope. And require a planting plan that actually meets the full 20-foot evergreen buffer required by code. This will still result in significant net increase in parking for the corridor while protecting neighbors, the environment, and the intent of the town code. We all want safe roads, responsible access. We simply need to also protect the people who live here already and follow the rules that are in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Show of hands of anybody else who would like to speak?
No, God, no. God, no. Sorry. I have no sense of humor.
Good evening. My name is Zach Kotzias, Kotzias. I also semi-permanently live at 229 Route 9D, just a few houses south of the Duchess Manor. Thanks for your time in reviewing this application. To make everything easier and simpler, we submitted a written document that organizes all of our main concerns as neighbors, including my parents, my aunt and uncle, and our other neighbors on the northern side, my grandma, my other uncle, and our further neighbors. So I won't be reading that whole proposal with solutions that we have. I just wanted to hit some main points here. As an pretty avid outdoorsman myself, we're definitely not against the idea of the trail. We're not against the visitor center. Obviously, the Duchess Manor had a parking lot for decades, my entire life until they closed a couple years ago. We were very used to seeing that parking lot full. But it feels like the project is, it's to a point of excess, and it's bigger than what the corridor can handle. And it's bigger than what the zoning was designed to handle. So when the parking is so much that it's driving traffic and safety risks and permanent impacts to the people who live there like us, and then the commuters from our neighbors in Beacon and Cold Spring, that doesn't feel like a responsible planning to us. So the document that we submitted focuses on compromise. We just want to reduce the overall scale of the parking, like people mentioned before, enforcing the setbacks and buffers that already exist in the Fishkill Town Code, and protecting the trees, water, and emergency access on the site. And possibly most importantly is making sure that these conditions stay in place over time. There's very little in the proposed plan about ensuring that things are kept the way they are planned, and that's something that's important to us. And then there's one last thing that I want to state very clearly because it's personal to us and our home. In that plan that was released just a few days ago that clearly states that the Duchess Manor will be the visitor center for the Fjord Trail as an quote access point, they show in their own maps that they have not secured easements on the north side. There's multiple properties. On the south side, there's at least one important property that they have not secured easements for. So I would ask you to consider that when you look at their plans with this site when they haven't even secured everything needed to move on to the next steps of their plan in using this site through this proposal that we're discussing tonight. And I'm not sure if this is the correct place to bring this up, but we are obviously opposed to any idea of eminent domain, private land being taken to support the park or any other related infrastructure.
Sir, 1 minute warning.
Thanks. And we think that's a concern that needs more clarity and firm boundaries from the planning board, or from their proposal to you, the planning board. I think everything that we're asking for is reasonable. It's grounded in existing rules, real-world conditions, and the fact that Route 9D is a shared corridor used by residents, commuters, commercial vehicles, and emergency services every day. We definitely are not asking for you to stop the project, but we're asking for it to be brought back into balance. That's all I have. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Show of hands of anybody else? Yes.
Hi, good evening. My name's John Zuvik. I live in Cold Spring.
Would you mind spelling your last name for the record?
Zuvic.
Thank you.
I just want to talk about the traffic a little bit. Here's some general information about traffic that I researched and wanted to share with you folks for your much appreciated conscientious deliberations. I imagine some of you have reviewed numerous studies over the years in addressing various proposals. These snapshot points in time taken over years have compiled a significant amount of telltale data, thus providing potential future projections and visions. The Department of Transportation references these studies regularly, and they have expiration dates every 3 to 5 years, or more frequently when there is what they call induced demand or development. In the early 60s, I remember riding up the line with my parents on Route 9 from Cold Spring through the hills, then cornfields of the Fishkill Plains. Along the way, you see a car or few going your or the other way. In 1963, the completion of Interstate 84 traversing Dutchess County changed everything. Statistics show that through the second half, toward the end of the 20th century and into the 21st century, the volume of traffic doubled every 10 years for several decades. However, with all the mitigating modes of mass transportation that have been introduced, that multiplier has tailed off percentage-wise. So it is now stated that the volume of traffic doubles every 35 years from this current point in time. Still not that many blinks when you talk about time frames of infrastructure implementations, which, think about it, we are already on the brink of one big backup from Beacon Bridge to the Bear Mountain Bridge along Country County Road 9D. Very similar to the overwhelming increases that has happened going south along the GO path, Route 6 from Anthony's Nose, Bear Mountain Bridge to the Ansville Circle. Think about the tremendously induced traffic increase with the Hudson Highland Fjord Trail's characterization of this proposed trail as the, quote, epicenter of tourism in the Mid-Hudson Valley. Also, it must be mentioned that it is the potential tarnishing of one of the most prominent areas of statewide scenic significance, a section of the Maurice D. Hinchy Hudson River Valley National Heritage Area, which is in similar jeopardy. Please reference the New York Department of State's cautions and considerations regarding applicable guidelines attached to these national destinations. On top of that, add the potential social media overloads contributing to another grand traffic jamboree. Please don't let the Dutchess Manor development contribute to the potential scale-up of this area's saturation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who would like to make a comment this evening? Anything on that side?
No hands on my side.
Okay. All right, with that, I'll ask our planning board attorney, Dominic Cordisco, recommendations of how this board could or potentially should proceed this evening.
Yes, as I mentioned at the outset, when the board was considering scheduling the public hearing, that the purpose of having it over 2 months was to give everyone ample time to provide comments, especially in light of the holidays. And now you've given the public that opportunity. You've also been accepting written comment throughout this process, and there has been a significant amount of written comment that's been submitted, including up until today. And I would expect that additional written comment would come in as well. But given the fact that you've now given everyone an opportunity to speak, and that this is, as I said, been held over 2 months, my recommendation would be to close the public hearing at this point, but also decide on a date certain as to when any final written comments should be submitted to the board.
Okay, with that said, I will open up that question to the 3 other board members who are here at the dais and get their thoughts on written comment period.
I believe we have a good understanding what most people stand. And we had a lot of written comments.
That's correct.
I think so.
That's
I
correct.
think we had more written comments on this than we've had on any other project.
So with that,
Many years.
I'll throw out the idea of allowing written public comment for 1 week from this evening. That would provide the public additional time to provide any comment especially a lot of people spoke this evening, may have additional comment. I think that would provide a sufficient amount of time and also give the applicant an opportunity to provide a response prior to next month's meeting if they so choose. I know there's a submittal deadline as well, so when we do the project review this evening, we'll talk about, the response to the comments and how we want to have that addressed, but at least that would give the applicant an opportunity, if they can, to make a submittal for next month's meeting.
Yeah.
So that would be my recommendation. So that would be to allow written comment through Thursday, January 15th of 2026.
By 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, close of business, 4 o'clock. So,
I so move.
I was going to make that a motion, but I guess.
It's a motion at this point.
Yeah, so I'll speak the motion. Let me, do I have a motion to close the public hearing for Duchess Manor site redesign and restoration, site development plan and special use permit, and to allow a written comment period through Thursday, January 15th, 2026 at 4 p.m.
Now, I so move.
There we go.
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? All right. John Cantor abstained, so we do have 4 votes in favor, so motion passes. Okay. With that said, I did mention earlier that we do have a project review for Duchess Manor later this evening. That'll be item 5 on the agenda, so there are a few other items between now and then we'll revisit the project at that time. With that, I know there's a lot of folks here in the room, so I would, we're going to ask for a 5-minute break, allow the room to clear if folks intend to go, and then we'll return at around 8:25 p.m.
And thank you for everybody for coming.
No, it's that.
I know. I wanted to
Yeah,
see
it was,
for
no,
you,
it
though.
was real small. Because I had,
Okay, we're going to start things back up. All right, we are going to review a couple of requests for extension of approval. The first one is Basis Industrial Route 9D, Site Development Plan and Special Use Permit. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on December 18th, 2025, which is a request for a 1-year extension of the resolution of conditional final approval that was adopted by the board on February 13, 2025, and shall expire on February 13, 2026. Welcome.
Good evening.
Welcome back. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you as well.
Well, if you could just give us a brief explanation of where things stand and why the request for a 1-year extension is being made.
Sure. So, as I stated in my letter, we've addressed most of the planning and engineering comments. We've got our bonds established. We've got the sewer extended to our site, or approved to be extended. We're still just working through DOT with the easements they need from us, as well as it being in the health department. And everything was slowed down a little bit because, as you know, there was an Article 78 brought challenging the project, which we just all won, I think, 2 weeks ago. But we're, moving full steam ahead now.
Mm-hmm. Well, why 1 year?
I don't think we're going to need
I
the
understand. You can come back
full
with
year.
extension, but that's a
could,
long time.
Again, I don't think we're going to need the full year, but to not waste your time, I thought I'd just request a year.
Any other questions from board members? And then we'll ask Dominic for your opinion.
It's the board has the discretion if you wanted to grant a year, to Fred's concern, is that they could come back and request an additional extension. I mean, I think it's a question of convenience. certainly have worked on certain elements of satisfying conditions, but there hasn't been a submission yet for actual, right. There
has
hasn't
not.
actually been a submission requesting, final review as a precursor to the planning board chair's signature on the site plans. But we understand that that's, going to be made at some point.
Yes.
But as I said, it's really the board's preference.
Any thoughts from other board members?
I mean, typically, 1 year is not really something we've done a whole lot of. It's usually been 3 or 6 months. So, I mean, 6 months maybe seems like more reasonable to me. If there are, and that would at least have the applicant in front of us in 6 months, so we can at least get an update of where things are. I think 1 year is, like I said, we typically don't do that, but that's just my feeling on the matter. I don't know if you agree, John.
And I can't remember out 1 year from now.
One other thing I didn't note is that we did finally reach Heritage Bank, which is our neighbor, and we did establish an easement over Pappas Lane. So maintenance, all that stuff is taken care of with the neighbor. I know that was a concern during the process.
Okay. All right, well, it sounds like there maybe is a leaning towards making this a 6-month extension. Maybe that would put a little bit of pressure on getting things moving as quickly as possible. And then, like we're all saying, if that doesn't work out, then you come back for another request.
Sounds good.
So would someone like to make a motion to approve a 6-month extension of the resolution of conditional final approval for basis industrial site development plan and special use permit?
So moved.
That would go to August 13th, 2026.
Thank you.
Okay, Vijay moved it.
Second.
Anthony seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any
Thank you.
opposed? Any abstentions? That carries.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Have a great night.
Thanks. Happy New Year. Just for the record, we have 5 voting members at the moment. Okay.
Thank you.
And the next request for an extension is 453 US Route 9, Duchess Mall. Site development plan. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on December 22, 2025. I won't read through the whole lengthy thing because I think we all know the details. But you are requesting 2 consecutive 90-day extensions, and that would be equivalent to 6 months. So you want to just quickly tell us where things stand and what the request is for?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. Chris Fisher from Cuddy and Fader. We really are at a point in time where, for all practical purposes, we've satisfied the material conditions. We're ready to get to the point where we have the chairman's signature on the site plan. The issue that's impacting the project at this point is really just the market and having this nailed down. I thought I'd give you a quick overview so you understand where the property owner has been. You recall this project came to you with a proposed developer of the site and a purchase and sale agreement. They were going to buy the property. They went through the entire entitlement process and then they pulled out for whatever reason. The property owner took over the project. We've gone through and gotten all these subsequent governmental approvals, Department of Health, DEC, other agencies, and in fact formed a transportation corporation and all the elements that are needed to really get to the point of construction. At this point in time, when I was here last year, I don't remember exactly which date, but when I was last year, we were close to a purchase and sale agreement with another purchaser. We'd gone through a couple of rounds of contract red lines. As far as I understand it, they pulled out to a certain extent at that time based on tariffs and not knowing what was happening in the world and warehouse space. We still believe strongly in the market for this site as warehouse. So our goal is to keep the site plan here, move this project forward, and in fact, Hudson Properties, which certainly has all the financial wherewithal to do it, if we can get a long-term lease tenant for this space, we may self-perform and build it ourselves. So right now, the issue that's really only driving the need for an extension is the market, and the only condition outstanding is posting a letter of credit. Under the circumstances I just explained, it really doesn't make sense as the owner to, because of your requirement for a letter, or the town board's letter of credit or cash, to put $3 million up and just kind of have it sitting there for no purpose, because the town doesn't need to be secured. We're not coming out of the ground. So we did raise, and it's really more a question for you and the town board, instead of giving us continual extensions, if you wanted to, the chair would, I think, be in a position to sign if we deferred the time for posting of the security to the building permit phase. That's probably not usual for you, but it's an option if you don't want to keep seeing us. We're not looking to get out of posting any security, just the right time for it is when we're actually ready to come out of the ground. So, but I think the easiest way to do it is just, at a minimum, grant us the extension we've sought, but if there is a willingness to give us further relief so we don't have to keep coming back, we put that in our letter.
Let me just ask Dominic first. I know there's been some discussion and some emails that I've seen that have to do with that request to move ahead with security posting before building permit as opposed to signing.
Yes, and Steve Gava, as the town attorney, has indicated that that was not something that was allowed under the code. I would be hesitant to suggest that the planning board could amend that, requirement that the letter of credit be posted before plan signing. And I think that in any event, if the board was to even consider the request, like, we would want the input of the town board, because it's the town board that really becomes the enforcement authority over top of that letter of credit. So, and I think at this point it would be premature to, even go through that path. The board could extend the approvals at this point, and the applicant can continue to come back if necessary.
Yeah, thank you. And we, obviously we were on the email exchanges. We had shared some legal thoughts on it, but it's not something that's really an issue for us if we get an extension. So we're happy to take it either way. We're providing some optionality. We may talk to the town board and say, is this something we can get relief and have a conversation on, but we don't want to make more out of it than it is. We're looking to keep the site plan in place so we can make sure that we can, to the market, say it's entitled and it's ready to go.
Any other questions from board members? Yeah, go ahead, Fred.
Have you considered any other use? You guys have owned the property for a long time.
Yeah, I go back to the Home Depot on this site,
well,
so.
And some of us go back way before that.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah, we have actually considered other uses on this site. Maybe the board may recall this. I can't even remember when, but maybe it was a decade ago, we processed a zoning text amendment to allow a residential overlay here. So it's planned industrial. There's certain uses that are allowed. Retail has been the driver on that corridor. Warehouse is definitely a market, we think. Residential is a possibility, but that would be starting over here. So for us, it's really, let's stick with the warehouse. Let's make the market work and make it happen.
All right. Well, I don't have any problem with what you're requesting, 2 successive 90-day extensions. That's comparable to what we've done in the past.
Even the 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. So would someone like to make a motion to approve 2 successive 90-day extensions of the resolution of preliminary and conditional final approval, site development plan for 415, 453 U.S. Route 9 that would go to July 28th, 2026, I believe.
That's correct. So moves.
Bob moves it. Is there a second?
Second.
BJ seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries 5-0.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Welcome back.
Good evening. Happy New Year to all.
Happy New Year to you. So this is a request actually for a readoption of approval. And this is for Healy Hyundai, second amended site development plan and lot line realignment. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on December 19, 2025, which is a request for readoption of the resolution of preliminary and conditional final approval, second amended site development plan, as well as the resolution of preliminary and conditional final for lot line realignment. And the board granted 90-day extensions of the resolutions. Both extensions expired on July 12th, 2025. So I'll just mention the applicant team has submitted the required fee for readoption of approvals, and there is an established escrow account with sufficient funds for review by our consultants. So before I let you just kind of tell us where things are and where we're going with this, I did want to point out that one significant outstanding item on the approved site plan that I'm aware of anyway is the lack of completion of the required landscaping along the site frontage on Route 52. And there may be other things as well, so maybe if you could just kind of give us a thumbnail sketch of where things are. And
Sure. We obviously have to finish the lot line realignment paperwork, but the major item after the couple hurdles that we had throughout construction is just that front island area that was a bone of contention, if you will, throughout. Mr. Day and Stokoza provided a letter basically for the delay, even though it expired in July. We couldn't really push the issue after the meeting with Joel and Mr. Bodendorf on site when our landscape architect had some health issues for a period of time. Mm-hmm. So it was agreed upon not to find someone else per se. Let's just stay with the course of the folks that started with us from the beginning. So we need to finish that, which is just that island there. There was the concern on the quantity and items to be put there based on even the snow that you see right now piled up in that from the condo complex next door, so on and so forth. And that's what led us to have the meeting on site. So we know we need to finish that. I'd like to get that done sooner than later in the dormant phase right now, even though dealing with some frost in the ground. But I'd like to just jump back now that our landscape architect is well and ready to go, and finish everything real quick for the owner and get off of the roll, if you will, coming back and just get everything finalized and completed and done.
Well, since the landscape architect has been back on the job, so to speak, and we wish him well, and hopefully the health issues are resolved at this point, but does the landscape architect have any ideas for perhaps changing the island plantings to any degree, anything significant that we would have to know about? And
he basically wanted to take the let's call it the spread out scenario and shrink it slightly in so that it was more consolidated towards the center around the telephone poles in the center island, but it can be massaged from there per se. That was how we presented it. For instance, when this came up and at the end of last year, the winter season, it's almost identical to what's there right now if you pulled out and took a look at the piles of snow that are on top of it, not necessarily from the parking lot, but still there from either the highway or the condo complexes next door as they come down the hill and push the snow. So it was basically a quality of the plantings, and the applicant owner had thought, you know, listen, can I get some more grass as a mowed area and keep it nice and tidy that way? Would that be okay? So that's how this all developed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I guess we can ask other board members for your opinions, but again, if there's going to be any substantial change to the design for the plantings, including the amount of area covered by them, that would be something we would need to see revised plans for before we could move ahead with that, before you could move ahead with doing the plantings. Otherwise, you know, following fairly specifically what the approved plans call for would just be a matter of the readoption that we're talking about now. But if there's something more than that, it would really be also an amendment to the amended plan. So that's something that you'll need to talk to the landscape architect about. That's not something that our building inspector can just say, okay, well, a wink and a nod, and you can do that. That has to come back to the planning board if you desired to change the plans.
Okay.
I would myself not necessarily be opposed to some, modifications in the design. For instance, I've seen a couple of commercial sites similar to frontage with Healy's, parking area and the large building in the back on busy state highways like Route 9D, for instance, where instead of having necessarily a lot of soft plantings, having perhaps some harder base like kind of a stone surface as opposed to a normal planting bed with tall grasses and shrubs scattered in between. So things like that certainly can be done to accommodate the need for some snow storage and, other impacts of the state highway. But that would be a whole different approach.
Sure. I think at this point in time, it would behoove us just to stay by what the plan is, get it planted exactly how it was, so we can know that there's no forthcoming changes to you guys. Get it all set to go, final CO, signed off, the lot line realignment lines documented with the county, and put it to bed. I think at this point in time would probably be the smartest avenue to take.
All right, well, that would work too.
I think that, listen, it's been obviously operating under temp CO. I want to close it out. I need it off my desk, if you will. So I think just knuckling down to get it knocked out in a very quick, timely fashion, the items that need, is probably the right way to go.
Any questions or comments from board members?
Yeah, I think we would like this off our desk too. I believe about a year ago, we were in the same spot, and I had asked Mr. Day why the plantings weren't in, and he said, because it's winter, duh. And here we are a year later, and these plantings have not been put in. This application has been disrespectful to the town of Fishkill. And I'm really frustrated with, they've been operating for 2 years now. They can't put plantings in front of their business. This is really a slap in the face to the public, and I am beyond frustrated. And I'm going to stop right there because I'm going to say something that I'll probably regret. But that's my general feeling about this whole thing. Put the plantings in and let's get done.
I appreciate the strength of your comments. Fred, what do you think?
Yeah, hey, get it done.
Bob? I will mention further that there has been quite a bit of input, let's say, given to the town through the supervisor's office, the building department, the planning department, about the lack of completion of this planting project. So I agree, this is definitely the time to do it, get it done. I know there has been quite a bit of vocal concerns from especially the neighbors over at Fishkill Woods, directly across from the project site. One thing I'd kind of like to ask everybody's opinion on, including Dominic, your opinion on whether or not this request for readoption perhaps should have a public hearing attached to it to allow people from, especially neighbors who have been impacted by this, to have an opportunity to speak about it.
I'm not familiar with any provision in the readoption code. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I may be, but I'm not aware that there's a provision allowing for a public hearing as part of readoption procedure.
Mm-hmm.
I can take a look at that.
Delay it?
Yeah.
Would that potentially delay them putting it in?
Well, hopefully not, but That's sort of a separate question. My question really is, what would be the legal requirements or aspects of having a public hearing? And if not a public hearing, the board certainly can allow informal public comments by the public for virtually anything like this. So that might be another route to go, and if we do that, we could also indicate in the agenda item, should the board decide to request your preparation of readoption resolutions. That could be part of the agenda notification of the public.
The standard procedure would be to authorize me to prepare a resolution, because this would be a new resolution that would reference the fact that there was prior approvals for this that expired.
Yeah.
And then it would carry forward all of the conditions that remain outstanding. And that could, I mean, theoretically, that could be considered at your February meeting, but you could also certainly allow informal public comment. I'm not aware of a provision in the code that would allow for a second public hearing on a project that has already received approval.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever seen that, although I also haven't
I'm looking desperately.
I also haven't seen very much in the way of code requirements for readoptions.
Yeah.
So, which is I think one reason why for a number of situations like this, the board in our rules and regulations a couple of years ago that we adopted came up with the informal public comment provision that virtually allows the board to allow public comments outside of the public hearing processes that we normally have. So that certainly could be a route that we take.
If I may, Chairman. Points taken by fellow members. I think we're in a situation as the applicant that tomorrow morning we jump on making sure the plantings are installed, and I get this taken care of in a speedy, timely fashion to move it along, rather than delay, if you will. Points are taken, and I think it's a time just to get it wrapped up.
Well, when you're talking about tomorrow morning, the process would be that the board would authorize our attorney to prepare draft resolutions for the February meeting.
Understood, but for me to get the landscaping just done so that it's back to square one as to where it should be, right? I can put the plantings in the right now. Sure, well, I was just over there taking a look at, what level the grass it is, but just moving along, get it planted and get it to where the plans were originally accepted, and then, yes, understood, I still need to make the submission based on other documents here to bring it back up to the time, to the current time since it expired.
Missing now is the planting? Or is there
Correct,
anything
yes,
else
sir.
that has to be done?
Correct. That's the only thing on our site plan that is not done, which is just strictly the island between entrance and entrance. Everything else is 100% as per the plan.
Yeah, and it's actually a fairly long length of frontage that needs to be planted. There also were some plantings that didn't make it through the initial planting. Have those all been replaced
Correct.
appropriately?
Yeah, I had to replace 7 evergreen trees, which is right across from the Fishkill Woods entrance. We did that, and also had to go ahead and add a irrigation line for that, interim period of dryness on that berm, so that they all took. Honestly, in the daylight, I'm sure I can just double check and make sure there is nothing else. But there was 7. There was 7 that were replaced back in the early spring that didn't make it.
Mm-hmm. And what about the area in back along Old Glenham Road, where there had been, I know there had been some work done on the slope or near the slope area, going down, and I've heard it said that there's some kind of debris and kind of unsightly elements remaining in that area. Has that been cleaned up at all?
I'll be perfectly frank with you that I have to go check tomorrow morning. I know that we just went ahead and replaced some mailboxes that were taken down, but if there is any bit of construction debris, which I didn't think so. I thought that was all removed, but I will double check.
Okay.
100%.
All right. So I guess where we stand is that we would need to see if the board is willing to move ahead with authorizing our attorney to prepare the necessary resolutions. That would be two different ones, one for readoption of the second amended site development plan and a second one for readoption of the lot line realignments for the Healy Hyundai dealership for the planning board's consideration at the February 12th, 2026 meeting. So Dominic, you'd be prepared to do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'd also like to just reiterate that as part of that motion, I'd just like to be clear that we will allow informal comments from the public at the February 12th meeting, just so the public is aware of it. And also, my own feeling is, I know you want to do the plantings as soon as possible, but I'd like something put in the resolution that would have kind of a drop-dead date for the plantings, to be something like no later than the end of the spring 2026 planting season.
That's a good idea.
So with that in mind, is there a motion to the effect of what I just described?
So moved.
I'll second.
Anthony moves it.
Second.
Fred seconded it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that carries 5-0.
Thank you very much for your time.
So we look forward to it. Thank you for coming. All right, I am going to recuse myself from the project review for Duchess Manor, so I'll turn it back over to Anthony to run this part of the meeting, and we'll be back to 4 voting members for this particular item, right?
Yeah, I think I'm done with my outburst for the evening, so.
Okay.
Well,
if I hear anything out in the lobby, I'll come, I'll go the other direction.
I might have to get escorted out of here.
All right.
All right. The next item on the agenda is project review, Duchess Manor site redesign and restoration, site development plan and special use permit. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on December 23rd, 2025. Good evening once again.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the board. So many of the public comments we heard tonight relate to opposition to the Fjord Trail and or requests for site plan revisions, responses to which are not necessary for this board to make its determination of significance under SECRA. So we'd like to ask the board to authorize the town's consultant to prepare a draft Part 2 of the environmental assessment form and put this matter on the February agenda for review with the board of the EAF Part 2. And by that time, before the February meeting, well, first of all, we have addressed all of the comments from the town's consultants. There are no outstanding comments. We've responded to all of them. And to the extent that there have been public comments during this public hearing period, I think we've discussed, and we're going to discuss further tonight, putting in some responses to those so that the board and its consultants can have in front of it the public comments, our responses to those comments by category, I would suggest, and then a draft of an EAF Part 2 for discussion at the February meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, and I know that's something that I had talked briefly with Dominic about, and it's something we can talk about this evening, but I want to go back to the public hearing. Obviously, we've had the hearing. We had it for 2 months. There's quite a bit of written comment as well as spoken comment. In terms of the response to the comments you suggested, by topic, I think that's appropriate. There were a number of comments on various topics. You had a stenographer as well. We have written comment. As part of the next submittal, we certainly would like to see a comprehensive response to the comments made by topic as part of what we receive. Before we talk about the other portion of the request about the draft of the EAF Part 2, it's probably appropriate if we go to our consultants. I know they provided, there was a submittal, they had provided comment letters, so let's go with those first, and then we can discuss as a board our thoughts on, or recommendations from our consultants, and then discussion from the board as to how they feel about proceeding. So with that, I'll start with Liz Axelson, our town planner.
Thank you. So we had raised the comment about the full EAF Part 2, maybe prematurely, because the hearing wasn't done yet, and I think it was appropriate to allow the hearing to continue so that the planning board has all the potential comments that the public might provide verbally or in writing. And so I think this would be a good time, because remember that the full EAF Part 2 is a really great tool for the planning board to be able to hash out what are the most important impacts and any kind of additional comments you might have about the impacts other than what is drafted for your consideration. So I think this would be a good time to do that.
In terms of your comment letter, I know there were some other comments. Is there anything of note at this stage?
No, not really. They really are. I'm kind of walking you back through the remaining steps that are going on here, including the criteria for approval of certificate of appropriateness related to the historical nature of this. And then a couple times I've said we really need to see the whole plan set again. I understand why excerpts have been provided recently, because there were a few key issues that needed some focus, but it would be nice to bring them back together. And then I have to admit that one sort of additional thing that's kind of niggling me a little bit is this whole question of removal of trees on the site, which I have to say I've looked at it. And the removal of the trees in the interior of the site absolutely makes sense. The other thing that's happening is there may or may not be trees around the perimeter area that might dovetail or not with the landscaping at the edge of the site. So that would be a good consideration. But I can understand why the existing trees in the interior of the site really can't be saved, because that area is going to be graded to a certain degree. It's not going to help. The trees aren't going to survive that. That's my impression anyway. So I just wanted to throw that in there, but I think it would be good to at least present for the planning board an alternative that shows some of the existing trees around the perimeter, if there's a way to incorporate those. And the only other consideration I had about the perimeter plantings is I understand and respect there being alternating deciduous and conifers. I think that makes good sense. I'm not necessarily a fan of a wall of evergreens, because to me that doesn't necessarily look natural unless that's what's in the landscape. So it might be a good idea to see an alternative where we have some more evergreens, but I understand alternating evergreen and non-evergreen trees around the perimeter of the site. So.
Yeah, I think the solution we would be looking for in that is something that's going to discourage a member of the public from wanting to wander off the property. So that's kind of, I get your point, but also kind of that, you know, making sure that it's substantial enough that somebody's not going to walk off the property.
Yeah, and I also did look at that concern because there is a trail, kind of a switchback trail, but it goes to near the edge of the property, but then switches back and brings whoever's walking back down to the rest of the facilities. There really isn't a point where I could see, I mean, unless somebody's just going to trespass anyway, that somebody would just go over into the next property. And that switchback trail is on the Duchess Manor, one of the parcels. So that concern, that didn't worry me as much. And I think when you get to the far edge beyond that switchback trail, it really does drop off. I think it's brushy and scrubby and rocky, and you have to be pretty adventurous to try to walk down an area like that without some kind of a trail. So I think that would be the rare, you know, person that's going to do that kind of thing anyways. But in general, there's enough there for people to be able to enjoy the trails, the lawn area, that they won't really, I don't think they're going to need to wander necessarily. I don't know how the board feels about having a fence all along that line, especially when it's that far down. Weigh in if you like, but if there was, it just seems like it would be contrary to the type of design for that area, to have a nice hillside that's grassy, brushy in the lower parts with trees along the edge and rocks they're going to show from the Hudson anyway. So those are just my final thoughts.
Well, it's mostly for you. I have not walked the property. My main concern was also the trees and the amount of trees that were coming down, not knowing exactly where they are. I understand some parking, but it sounded like a lot of trees were coming down. So I'd like to get onto the property with somebody to show me where the trees are coming down. And, hello, and also, we're not talking about the Ford Trail itself, but what I am, because is the Ford Trail going to go through this property at all? Down by the river? I don't understand how you're going to get from the south side to the north side, or from the north side to the south side.
There will be. There will be, the Fjord Trail will cross the rear of this property along the river.
Near the bottom.
Yes.
Is there any plans of putting steps in down that steep slope so people who are coming to the site can
that's
join
the
trail
switchback.
there instead of getting on a bus?
When we looked at this sort of as a master plan level for the long term, there was a switchback trail that was thought of to do an ADA descent down that, because it's over 100 feet in the back.
I understand. So
And then a staircase that would be a straighter shot for somebody who just wants to go run a lot of stairs. But we do have both. So there would be an ADA switchback that goes down that slope more gradually, and then a staircase that was put in the rock, like in with stone steps that goes down the back.
Okay, so somebody who's going to drive in, park there, can go down the hill.
In
or
the future.
mountain, whatever you want to call it at that point.
Right. In the future, as the neighbors noted, there are some outstanding acquisitions that would be needed north and south. We have different ways to work around that if those acquisitions don't come to fruition.
Because that will be on the property.
The switchback is on our property.
Okay, is that being shown to us now?
Yes.
In the plans?
It was in one of the images in the in the PowerPoint deck. It was in one of the images of sort of in the future.
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody else on the board would like to go and see, meet.
Yeah, I'd be happy to meet.
We can't have more than 4 people?
I can
Right.
join you, Rick.
Okay.
What?
Yeah.
You can't
But-
have 4 people at once.
3 people.
3.
Yes, we can have 3 people.
Multiple tours could be had.
okay.
And we've done some analysis of the trees on site. We've had an ecologist go through and inventory the trees that are there. Some of them are aging out and dying, but some might be healthy. So I'm happy to look at that again and say, like, are there some healthy ones? Is there more of a tree retention strategy we could have on those periphery while the newer trees come in?
Okay, because one of the biggest gripes
Yeah.
here from the one side is cutting down trees.
Mhm.
And nobody wants to cut down trees, but again, we understand we need the parking lot, and we've done a lot of good changes.
Yeah, and some of what we're trying to do is really restore more of the native tree mix through the site versus ornamentals that were brought in that really don't have the same ecological value. But there's also a matter of some of them are ornamentals. They're reaching the end of their life cycle. I could take some pictures that shows sort of half of the needles on some of those pine trees are just dead on one whole side of the tree. So they do need some replenishment in some cases just to, because they're at the end of their life cycle.
Okay, so I'd like to get in there before the next meeting, if possible.
Okay.
So Debbie, in recent months, we had the Willow Lake.
Well, I'm going to be perfectly frank with
You're
you.
not making
It's a nightmare for me to try to get this together with all of you at the same time. So I think you guys should pick a date tonight, pick your dates, and let's get it on the record so I don't have to send back and forth the emails, because it doesn't work. To be perfectly honest with you, it doesn't work that way.
It's like herding cats by email.
It's hard.
Are there dates that would,
I could offer up a few dates where we'll be on site and we could give a tour, and maybe it's just like a 1-hour window and people can choose different windows and only 2 slots per window, or however many your cap is for, is it no more than 4?
no more than 4 at one time?
No more than 3. 3. No more than 3, rather.
Or
Yeah.
no more than 3, yeah, no more
Okay.
than 3, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, let's email Debbie a date
Mhm.
that works, and then if folks are available, we'll work out the times for
Okay.
that.
Happy to.
Thank you.
So we so appreciate you wanting to understand, like, the trees that are out there and their health and what we're proposing to take down and replant. But I would suggest to you that these are questions that you can deal with during site plan. And you have all the information that you need really now to make a secret determination of significance. That said, Amy will coordinate with you, have a nice site visit, but I just want to kind of stay focused on what the next steps, immediate steps are, which is for this board to make a secret determination of significance with regard to the Duchess Manor site plan.
Understood, and we will get to that. I did want to get to Dennis Lynch's, you provided a comment letter as well, so I want to make sure we cover that. I know, Liz, you've provided your input, and then we'll go to Dominic and then have that discussion. So go ahead, Dennis.
We have our letter dated December 31st. The plans that were submitted were an abbreviated set of plans, but all our comments have been addressed. We did have a meeting with the applicant and their team regarding, I think the outstanding things were the soils types and the lighting, and they both addressed that. We would, as part of the approval, would like to have a second look at or additional look at the plans, but moving forward, I don't think anything that we have that's outstanding would affect secret determination.
Yeah, I think to your point, you've received an abbreviated set of plans. I think at this point, and I can ask Dominic as well, my general feeling is I'd like to get a full set of plans submitted to this board with the comprehensive responses to the public hearing comments, and then have that before us, possibly at the next planning board meeting, and then at that time, we would have potentially what we need to have that Part 2, EAF Part 2 drafted. But I would like to get Dominic's thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, that is certainly a course of action that you could take. I think it would be helpful for the record, and especially for the board. I mean, as you noted, that there's been a significant amount of public comment that's been received, and so having a response from the applicant, on the topics that were received, not a response to each and every individual comment, because I think that would be, entering the territory of a final environmental impact statement and even beyond, to respond to each individual writer's comment. But certainly they fall into particular areas that could be responded to by the applicant so that the board could see, in one place what all of the comments were and what the applicant's response is for the board's consideration, because it is your secret determination that you are heading towards. Part 2 EAF, is part of that, where you're characterizing various different aspects of impacts from the project as to whether or not there are no impacts or small impacts or moderate to large impacts. And so in order to have that, I think, for the February meeting, at a minimum, you should have a response to comments from the applicant to consider. You could consider a Part 2 EAF at that time, but if you would prefer to see the revised plans, a full set submitted, as well as this response to comments on behalf of the applicant, that is also an appropriate course of action. It's really how comfortable the board is at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I personally would. I think there were certainly some comments that have been raised during the public hearing that I think the applicant should consider in a potential full plan set submittal. Obviously, stuff like herbicides and pesticides, is there a committal from the applicant on that will not be used? I'd like to see some sort of commitment on that if possible. If that's something that could be committed to, I think that would maybe allay some of our concerns that what may be a potentially large impact for something on an EAF Part 2. I think that's something if the applicant could commit to, that would help us out in that department, especially for groundwater. The overflow parking area has continued to be a concern. Is there a way, I know Felix is not here tonight, but he raised quite a few concerns about the size of the parking as well as multiple members of the public. Are there ways to consider reducing or adjusting that area away or toward the Duchess Manor site? I'd like to see if that's a possibility. I think that's a big concern. And then, the buffer to the adjacent properties as well. I think what's been presented to date could become a little bit more robust as well. So I think at least those are three off the top of my head, and I do want to ask, I know we have a short-handed board this evening, but I would like to, ask those who are here this evening for their thoughts as well, as to, comments or.
I'm ready to proceed, just ready to go to the next step.
So you believe drafting an EAF Part 2 would be?
Appropriate. I mean, we've got the comments from the public. I don't know if we're going to have anything.
Are you, microphone?
Huh? I'm just saying that you have to remember that the comment period is still open until the 15th.
Well, I understand.
Okay.
But we've heard almost anything that can be said on both sides. And I don't think we're going to get anything really new that's going to come in.
Yeah, I mean, but to that point, we would get the full response to all the comments and a full set of plans, and I don't know if there's any other concerns that you have that you would like to potentially see. I think having all that and then making the decision for the drafting of the EAF Part 2.
Well, like I said, my only concern was really now going up and see the site. I mean, I've looked at the plans, but here it is. One-dimensional. I'd like to get out there and see the actual site.
Okay.
Yeah, I do agree on what you said, Anthony. I mean, the parking lot issues, the trees. I mean, I would like to see a consolidated by topic responses, and then take it from there.
So you'd like to see that first, and then
Yes.
consider it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
I know the herbicides has been raised. For what that's about is us treating some very targetedly invasives that are in the back what we want to have is a wildflower meadow, but it was recommended by our wildflower meadow specialist that we treat some of the invasives, otherwise the meadow would never be successful because we have to get the invasives under control. So it's a short-term, very specific targeted measure, but long-term the strategy would be that it's native landscaping, organically managed, very sustainable. It's just we're tackling some invasives that have been on the site.
To understand, this is a one-time treatment. This is a
depends on the invasive. Some of them are 1 year, some are 2 years. It depends
and I think
on.
that's the general concern is if that could be addressed manually.
So that's what I'm seeking guidance on is I don't know what I'm not an invasive plant, but we could maybe get some written content about sort of what's there and what's the treatment protocol and like. It's not like we're spraying Roundup with like a machine gun. It's really just very targeted treatments that are happening and with things that have very short half-life, so it's not like something that lives in the soil for forever. So maybe a little bit more nuanced understanding of what's happening, why, and the time frames we expect it. Because nobody wants, we're an environmental group, we don't want to spray these things, but in some cases it's the only way to deal with the invasive plant.
Well, at a minimum, I think we'd like to see, if that's what the plan is.
Yeah.
We'd like to see that. I think that's an important consideration, something that we want to see as part of the next submittal of how that is intended to be addressed, what that looks like, where that's going to be located, to what extent, and if there are any other options that do not involve.
Right. And
that's the kind of thing that, I think we'd like to know. It is,
sure. And we've been coordinating with, New York State PRISM, which is the Invasive Species Management Program. That's all of the practices are consistent with basically state best practices and the way we would permit it with like New York State park biologists. So it's very, we're trying to be sensitive with how it's being done, but in some cases it's unavoidable unless you just want to live with that invasive forever.
Yeah, and I think also just management of the parking lot too, how that's going to be addressed as well. I think that's another consideration as well. I think these kinds of things are important for us to understand of how that's going to be handled.
Yep.
And have it become part of the plan set of this is how it will be done, so that we understand what's going to potentially get into the groundwater. We need to understand that.
Okay.
In terms, another clarifying question, in terms of, you raised the number of parking spaces, and we're talking about making a determination of significance based on a plan. And the plan shows a certain number of striped spaces, and then the rest are this overflow area. So in terms of assessing environmental impacts, right, we've given you what the proposal is. And so it's what we want to construct, what the applicant wants to construct. And the environmental assessment gives you comes to a conclusion based on objective data as to whether or not there is a potential significant environmental impact. Are you suggesting that we change the number of parking spaces? Because then the assessment we've looked at the worst case, if you will, with 181 spaces.
Is there a solution is there a reduction that could be made? If this is the application that the applicant wishes to proceed with, then this board would have to consider the potential impact of whether that's a significant impact or not. So if you believe that's the application you wish to go with, then that would be something this board would consider as part of their, EAF process. So, yeah, I mean, if that's the plan you wish to go with, then, that's fine as well. There were comments raised. Is there a way to adjust the parking? Is there a way to make it you know, there are, you know, the parking has generally been on the Duchess Manor property. I just want to see, and maybe that could be part of the response to the public hearing comments of what can be done. You know, I think the comment was raised. I just would like to see a response of how the applicant wishes to proceed and how they wish to address that concern that had been raised.
Okay, thank you.
So I think we got input from the board. We would like to see a full set of plans as part of the next submittal and a comprehensive response to the public hearing comments by topic. And I think that's where we left off. I don't believe there's any actions this board would be taking this evening. Dominic, is there, as long as we're not prepared to do a motion for the draft of the EAF Part 2, so I don't believe there's any other.
That would be correct.
Okay. So, yeah, that would be what we would be looking for in a subsequent submittal.
Thank you. We'll see you in February.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony.
All yours.
All right. I am back. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is Fishkill Medical Park, freshwater wetlands, watercourse water body permit. Board to review the submission made by the applicant's representative on December 16th, 2025. So, boy, Jeff, you know how to clear a room, don't you?
I don't think it was me.
So I'll just mention the applicant submitted the required application and fee for this particular part of the project review that we've been working on for quite a while. And the established escrow account from the approved site development plan application contains sufficient funds for our consultant's review of the wetlands permit. So you want to give us a quick run-through of the submission for the wetlands, watercourse, and water body permit?
Well, sure. There is no application as part of the town's process. It's merely that the applicant is to write a request for a wetlands permit. The wetlands were discussed at length during the site plan approval process, discussed in the seeker review, and the negative declaration adopted by this board at the last meeting specifically referenced the impact to the wetlands as part of that process as well, and so that's included in the negative declaration. So there's no, based on that, there's no further seeker review that this board needs to do regarding the wetland permit. The disturbance is a total of 5,711 square feet, or 0.013 acres. It's really related to the stormwater basin's spillway, and we have one very small area of grading on a drive aisle. Everything's going to be planted, landscaped, and actually will increase some of the breeding areas for some of the species on site. And the mitigation areas to prevent further impacts to the wetlands, as discussed in on the plans, are dust control, erosion control measures, and avoidance of planting any non-native or invasive species as part of our landscape plan.
All right, before we go to any questions or comments from board members, why don't we quickly go through, we have two lovely brief memos, one from CPL. So Liz, do you want to quickly run us through your memo?
Do I get a special prize for having such a short memo?
You get a gold star. Yes, you get a gold star. Or
and really, you can just skip page 1. It's a recap.
Perhaps if you wait till after the meeting is formally over, I have some candy canes for people, so you'll get a candy cane.
A candy bribe, there we go.
Yeah.
There you go. So really, the only thing remaining is on page 2 of the December 19 memo for this meeting, which is to consider wetland permit approval. That it's recommended, and, you know, all of the staff reports had said all the way through the minor amount of disturbance, so.
Good summary. And Dennis, likewise, could you give us a equally brief summary?
I can do even briefer.
Okay,
All
that would be
previous
good.
comments have been addressed as part of the site plan and special use permit.
Thank you. All right. This is what I like.
Very nice.
Dominic, I know you didn't prepare a memo, but do you have any questions or comments?
Would be, what I would add is that we had actually prepared an initial draft of a resolution of approval for this particular application only when Debbie noted the fact that the application itself had not been submitted, and that was, no, not at all. No, and because I had put an application number into the resolution that wasn't the application number, because she's so good that she checks those things, and no, and that's how it was caught. But the point being is that you know, we do have an initial draft prepared, and so if the board, I think at this point, would be procedurally in a position to authorize that draft to be finalized and presented at the February meeting.
Well, I think our problem is we didn't do a public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Oh, that's right.
I was
That's
going to
right.
mention,
I'm
we
sorry.
need to actually have one of those.
I mean, because we
Maybe
had
do
a
the
public
draft the same
hearing.
night.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if the two of
that's
you
right.
hadn't mentioned it, I would have.
That's right.
John wasn't going to let
That's
you.
what I was wondering.
Yeah.
So that
I had
that
it
makes,
too, right.
That makes my work easier.
That's right. My mistake. It's been a long day, so.
Great, same.
So.
But I could prepare that resolution for that evening, assuming that, you know, there would be no issue. And the public hearing obviously would be limited to just the wetland disturbance for the project, you know. So.
That's what I was hoping, that perhaps we could ask the board for a motion authorizing the preparation of the necessary resolution after we do a motion to schedule a public hearing. So would somebody like to make a motion first to schedule a public hearing on the proposed Fishkill Medical Park freshwater wetlands watercourse water body permit for February 12th, 2026 at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible? It actually may be a little bit past that because we do have a public hearing already scheduled.
The order that's at the purview of the board, that's not set in stone yet.
Right. Although the Willow Lake public hearing was scheduled first, so we'll see. People may show up for that one and probably not so much for this one.
Oh, don't say that.
I don't think the order really matters to us because I got to sit through to then have the site review after. So it's
fair
The
point.
resolution, you mean?
yeah,
Fair
yes.
point.
Yeah.
But at any rate, our standard wording on these motions is at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible. So would someone like to move that?
So moved.
That was VJ. Is there a second?
Second.
Bob seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So that motion carries. And so we do need, again, probably a sign, one sign at the entrance to the project site on Snook Road.
I'll get you the paperwork next week, Jeff.
Okay. And then we need a motion authorizing the planning board attorney to prepare a draft resolution for the proposed Fishkill Medical Park, Fishkill Wetlands Watercourse Water Body Permit for the board's consideration at the February 12th meeting, following the public hearing, assuming the public hearing goes well and smoothly and et cetera, et cetera. And I'll also just mention that since, as Jeff pretty much implied before, the seeker neg deck that was done for the site plan and subdivision basically covered all of the wetlands issues, and that was adopted by the board on November 13th, 2025. So if someone would like a motion to the effect.
So moved.
Second.
Is that BJ again? First
BJ
making
and Fred.
And Fred seconding. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. Okay.
All right. Thank you all. See
Thank
you
you.
next month.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Happy New Year's. Thank you.
You know, you guys are getting scary, getting out of here this early.
Oh, it's not over yet.
Don't jinx
Nice
it.
job, Fred.
Yeah. Now you did it. All right, and we've reached the final item on the agenda. Thank you for hanging in there. Well, you could stay as long as you like. I think Debbie will just turn the lights off and.
No, I'll stay, it's fine.
Okay. So this is Rombout Village, tennis court, storage shed, site development plan amendment. Board to review the application and supporting documentation that was accepted at the December 11th planning board meeting. So welcome back. So the application was referred to the planning board attorney and town engineer, and we did receive a memo from MJ Engineering. So Dennis, would you like to run us through that one?
Sure. We go through the seeker process. Based on our review, this would be a type 2 action. If the board is in agreement with our seeker classification, then that would be that would include the environmental review for the project. We go through. They did provide a part 1 of the short form EAF. We didn't have any comments on that. Zoning, we go through. We note the zoning. There's no variances being requested, and we didn't have any comments on the site plan. A little bit longer than my last review. Sorry.
Good. But very thorough.
Apology accepted.
Any questions or comments from board members?
No, I agree with the type 2.
Okay. And Dominic, any comments from you
No,
at this
sir.
point? So I think we'll have a couple of things here. So first, we could address the type 2 action with a motion to classify the proposed site development plan amendment at Roundabout Village as a type 2 action. Would someone like to move that? So moved. Bob moves it. Is there a second?
Second.
BJ seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries 5-0. And then we get to the meat of the matter. This, I think from the discussions and lack of discussion on this particular matter, I think we probably are in agreement this could be considered a minor modification to a previously approved site development plan, and such that the proposed shed has no real significant impacts compared to the previously approved plan, and that basically is further documented by the fact that we just classified this as type 2, requiring no further seeker review, and that no further public hearing is required. So if that's the consensus of the board, I believe that all we need is a motion to waive a public hearing and authorize the chair to sign a letter to file to the town building department to the effect that this is a minor modification. I see Dominic agreeing, nodding his head.
Yes, sir, I'm nodding my head.
All right, would someone like to make a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Anthony moves it, Fred seconds it. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries, and you are all set. Any questions for you? I think basically you can now proceed for the building permit to the building department.
Well, he's gotta get my letter first, but you can,
After that, yes.
you can,
Sure. Can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
What element made this that it wasn't just a building permit for a shed permit? Because the shed was on the building permit. list? I just want to know for future.
Well, Debbie, you can expand on this, but it's basically because the original Roundabout Village project included a whole site development plan review and approval.
Right.
And so any modifications to that
Shed wasn't on there.
approval, and that's why we have this expedited procedure for still coming to the planning board. That's basically what the code requires. So that's basically the short answer to your question.
Joel's the one that sent it here.
Yeah, okay.
When something doesn't show up on an approved site plan, it's considered an amendment to your code.
Thanks.
The building permit is different than the site plan. I think that's what you get confused.
Yeah, this is zone, that's zoning. I just reached out to you.
No, you go to the building department now.
I have to get a letter from you first to go there.
We send a letter to the building department.
All right, thank you.
All righty. So the next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, February 12th, with a submission deadline of January 28th. At that meeting, I'd like to have an item under other business for appointment of a planning board vice chair. So if you could make a note of that, Debbie.
Absolutely.
And I'll talk to Anthony at some point about possibly continuing in that basis. But I won't put you on the spot here. But I think you do a fantastic job.
Put him on the spot, put him on the spot.
In fact,
Very kind of you to say.
in fact, no, never mind.
Don't you dare.
No. Never mind. Anything else that board members or staff would like to bring up? I know, Dominic, any good legal updates? I know we've won at least one court case recently.
Yes, yes, I heard about it, but I haven't seen it. Yeah.
I saw it, but I didn't read it.
Okay. Wonderful.
And other than that, we have several pending ones that who knows how long those will take.
Yes, my partner, Ralph Piglielli, is going to be reaching out to you directly for an affidavit laying out just some of the procedural facts for the Fishkill self-storage, Article 78.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, don't anyone leave. Even once we adjourn, I have literally some leftover candy canes that that I would love to give to you all.
And to our sick fellow planning board members, everybody get well?
Yeah, really. We cut that one pretty close.
Yeah, that was a close one tonight.
Actually, was a couple of last-minute ones,
Yeah.
too. So,
Hope everybody's well.
Yes.
all right. Well, I'll take the opportunity to move that we adjourn. Would someone like to second that?
Second.
All right. And as
There
we
it is.
always say, let's approve it with our feet. But again,
Thank you.
yeah, thanks, everyone, and Happy New Year to everyone. And let's see.
Fred, you're gonna.